Hello Mayhem Makers, I am Mindy with Quilting Mayhem, and this is Mindy's Monday Mayhem Tips Live. So last week, if you followed along, I talked about starting a binding series for you guys. So, because I know I get so many requests to have binding classes so that you guys can tackle them, not be scared of them, and be successful. So I figured I'm going to start out the easiest. The easiest is what you call self-binding. So I made this little sample. Isn't this adorable? And so I'm going to do it on a smaller piece, but I'll show you how to do essentially a child's receiving blanket, cuddle blanket. Really, this technique can be used with just about any size you want, which makes it really nice. And because it's self-binding, you're not actually cutting strips of binding and attaching them and all those kinds of things. I will work our way to that. Probably next week we'll talk about real binding and different methods of doing it, because of course there's machine binding where it's all done by machine. Some people do by hand, all those kinds of things. But this week, let's keep it simple. And if you haven't seen, oh my gosh, the flannel fairies came last week. We got so many shipments of flannel because everybody was coming and going, why don't you have flannel? Where's all your flannel? So, and I will get you guys a written pattern, like on our website, just a free download. So this sample is using ideally 1 yard of a main print that you're going to cut to 36 inches square. That's what this piece is. And then your, what you call your backing print, it's 1/4 yards of fabric cut to 42 inches square. So most fabric is at least 42-ish, 42, 43, 44, depending on the manufacturer and all that. So you should be able to get to 42. If it's 41.5, that's fine. Just make it square. We're just keeping everything square. So because these pieces are huge and unwieldy, I am going to do all my sample on the little baby piece. And so it makes this little, what I call a wubby. If you've had kids, you've had a kid that had like a wubby, just that little one that they want to carry, or Debbie's suggestion, this is what they hang on to when the other one's in the wash, because it's disgusting because they took it everywhere and drug it on the ground and all that. So the sample is going to be just baby size, baby doll size, but keep in mind, in reality, if you want to do a nice big cuddle one, you're doing 36-inch square for what's going to be the center, and then 42-inch square for the backing. Okay, and then we're just going to shove that aside because there's just not enough room. So first step is you're going to find centers. So you just fold it in half and pin all 4 centers. Okay, both the top piece, so this is my top, and then the bottom piece. So this piece is bigger. Okay, and then you start out. What's nice is this is not directional, so it doesn't matter which way it's laying with my other fabric. If you have directional fabrics and those kinds of things, keep that in mind as you're laying them together. But you're just going to put them right sides together. So it will be ideally like this on a larger scale. Just remember, this is the mini version, all right? Okay, and so then what you start out with doing is matching center points. Okay, which I'm going to start with. And I'm going to open up my pin case so I stop putting them in my mouth. Now I'm not necessarily going to do all 4 sides to begin with. I'm just going to match 2 center points on 2 sides next to each other. Okay, so not opposing. And then what I suggest you have is a nice marking tool, so like a friction pen, chalk liner, sew line pen, anything you can mark with. Have that handy, and at least a small, like 4.5-inch square, because what you want to do is mark 1/4 inch from every corner. So I'll show you, I've got it already done here for you guys. So 1/4 inch from each corner, go all the way around, right? 1/4 inch, because you're going to stop 1/4 inch early on each corner. And here's my cheater trick. Here's something to know. This technique I'm going to show you is exactly how I do miter borders on quilts. So if you struggle with those big outer borders on your quilts, This is the method I use. Same idea. So you're gonna get a bonus tip today. All right, now what you have to keep in mind is at least one side. So I'm going to start with my beginning side. You want to leave an opening. So I'm actually going to move my center pin over about 2 inches because this one's not very big. I don't need a huge opening. On the bigger throw, maybe a 6-inch opening. There's not a lot of, there's no batting, there's no extra, so you don't need huge. Just a gap like so, because you're going to flip it right side out. Otherwise, you're not going to have any flipping space. Okay? So then I'm just going to take it to my machine. I'm going to start this 1/4 inch in, so not at the very end. Notice, when I start out, there's overlap. You want that. That's kind of your border. Okay? So I'm going to start just 1/4 inch in. I'm going to stop at this pin. I'm going to leave this gap, and then I'm going to keep going and stop 1/4 inch before the other end. Okay? So we're just going to go to my handy dandy machine here, pivot you a little bit, and start. All right. A little bummed I forgot to grab the freehand system, so I don't have my knee bar, but that's okay. We're winging it. I do have the dual feet engaged. So this Bernina, this back guy here, this is the dual feet. So it acts like a walking foot on the top, and then I have the feed dogs on the bottom, so it's helping everything feed evenly. So I'm going to come up close to the pin. Do not run over your pin. Your technician will hate you. So go right about to the stopping point, and then I'm just going to raise my foot, slide it over a couple inches, drop my foot again. I'm just using 1/4 inch seam, okay, because we're going to stop 1/4 inch, so we need that seam to be consistent. And then I'm going to go to the other end, and I'm going to stop 1/4. And I'm going to cut it, okay? So we'll show you what it looks like. All right. So we started, so see there's a little bit extra here. When we ended, there's a little bit extra here. Okay, guys? It'll make sense in a minute. All right, so then I'm going to go over to this other side. Notice it looks all wonky. It's okay. We're just going to line up the raw edges here all the way to the end so that we still have that extra over here, right? The nice thing about flannel is it kind of sticks to itself, and so it's a lot easier to line up. It's just not easy to do backwards and all that for me, so I'm just flipping it so I can see what's going on. All right, guys, so I've got it pinned at my 1/4 here. There's my center, and then I'll come to this end and pin also. Especially if you're new. If you're not new, you may not need pins as much, because like I said, the flannel likes to stick, so it's not quite as unwieldy as a cotton or a rayon. This side, I can go all the way. So just start that 1/4 inch in, and then go all the way, stop that 1/4 inch early at the other end. All right, so we're just gonna do that. And then just remember, take that pin out before you run it over, because if you hit it with your needle and it breaks and little pieces go inside, you're probably gonna have to bring it into the tech and give him the puppy eyes and say sorry, and he'll have to dig those pieces out. Okay, so we're gonna stop right at 1/4 and cut that. And I like to cut threads. Loose threads bug me, so we're just gonna get rid of that guy. All right, so we have this funky ear. Kind of looks like that. So here is how I do miter borders. I'm gonna scoot you. Try not to drop you. I'll bring it down here, because this is what's the important piece. So when I do mitered borders, I always do the same thing. So I stop that 1/4 inch. I then take the 2 edges that have been sewn and I line them up. Okay, so I got raw edges here. Gotta make sure you can see in the camera. All right. Now, I'm gonna put my pen this is where that quarter stopped, okay? I'm just gonna make a mark just so you guys can hopefully maybe see it a little bit. Now I just gotta make sure I get this diagonal going the right way. So generally what I do, gotta get this ruler to work with me, is then do my 45. And this ruler's not cooperating. Of course, I used a different ruler. So what I'm trying to do is draw 45 from here. And I've got it lined up in a line here. I don't have my 45 going the right way. Just driving me crazy. So we're going to make sure that, so I'm going to color this line for you. Do you feel like you're in geometry yet? So I'm going to sew on this line here. And I am starting right where that 1/4 inch stopped. So take it straight to the machine. And sew on that line. Cut it. Okay, so we sewed on the line. We're just going to cut it. I'll show you the results. Now, when I do this, I generally will trim this little end here just a smidge, because you want it to be able to lay open and all those kinds of things in the end. Now, because it's not sewn all the way around, it's a little easier to demonstrate how this flips and acts. So see how we have already our immediate 45. Ta-da! Easy peasy. Okay? And so for the blanket, you just keep going. So we'll show you, since you're here, I'm gonna line up these guys. So there was my center, right there. And then I'm just gonna straighten this. All the way to that 1/4 inch marking. Pin that end. And then this side doesn't have anybody against it. So I'm going to start here on this mark and just work my way down. I don't really need to pin it because this flannel's going to stay right where it belongs. Okay, so we'll come see if you can see here. Alright, so machine's just going to engage. Start taking pins out because I like to go fast. And I'm just going to make sure my edges stay straight. Sometimes they like to walk away. So I'm just smoothing them out, using my fingers to hold it as I go. Making sure it doesn't try to do anything on the back side. I'm going to pull that final pin, come all the way to that final spot, stop. Okay? And then same routine, try not to make you nauseous. So, line up my edges. If I'm doing like a big border on a quilt, a lot of times I will pin these two together further back, because big quilts and big borders totally get all over the board. So I'll pin it under control and then leave all this nice and even. And then same thing, right where this seam stops is where I'm going to do that angle. So this is just a nice little triangle here. And we're going to take it and sew it. Okay, same thing. Trimming. Usually have better scissors than this. Alright. And then we have our final side, because we left an opening over here. we can still go straight across because this is going to be our flipping side over here. Okay, if you had not left this open, now is the time to do it. I'm going to trim those threads so they don't give me grief later. Okay, so we're on the last edge. We're going to match centers. This is the key piece. You want your centers to match. So pin that center where they match. Come down where this 1/4 inch mark is. Trim that thread because it bugs you. And line it up nice and even. Here. Pin again at the 1/4. And then this side, because there is some fabric down here already sewn up to the 1/4, I'm going to pin it too. Otherwise, I don't know if you can tell, this flannel is trying to get all kind of out of control here. So I'm just going to line it up. And if you're doing a bigger piece, you can do more pins. Definitely pin as much as you need to keep all your fabrics under control. But I'm just doing a little bit so that I can make sure that this edge stays nice and straight. And then I'm going to same thing. So from those marks, nice 1/4 inch seam. And I love this dual feed. Oh my gosh, this thing just keeps everything nice and even. I don't have to worry about the top moving at a different rate than the bottom. This is the 770 QE Plus. This is the newer. This is the Plus edition, so it's got some extra bonuses to it that makes it a lot more like the 790. It's got some pinpoint placement, bigger screen, all kinds of good stuff. So I love this machine. I have a 770 at home. It makes me very happy. Okay, so we're just going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark these last 2 corners and then we'll show you how to flip it out. I do recommend for this project the OESD point turner. It's an amazing tool for corners if you struggle with getting corners to pop out. I like this one because they are rounded and different sizes, so you don't have to worry about necessarily poking through. A lot of projects, if you're using like a stiletto, you can run into an issue where the stiletto will just kind of poke right through the fabric or poke a hole in the fabric, and that's no fun. Nobody likes holes in their fabric. Okay, so I'm just marking these 2 sides. We're going to go back. Do I have pins I can sew over? No, because you can't guarantee that you won't accidentally clip it. I mean, the finer the pin, the less likely you are to actually land on it. But I mean, that likelihood's always there. And the minute you hit that pin with your needle and things break, bad things happen. So no, just take them out. That's why I like these ones. These have this nice grippy top to them, so they're a lot easier to grab than say the tiny heads. And these ones you can iron on, so these are heat resistant, so that makes them a plus. And they come in all different kinds. There's fine, extra long, quilting, fork pins, you name it, and they all have the heat resistant and that nice head to them. And they're all color coded, so you know which one's which if you buy a couple different kinds, which makes it nice, because otherwise you'd be like, are these the regular? Are these the extra fine? Because if your eyes are like mine, they all start to look the same, all that kind of stuff. Don't you love when spam calls you? Someday maybe we'll have a world without spam calls. That would be awesome, right? Okay, so corners, all 4 corners, cut, sewn, right? So we have this funky looking thing. So you're just gonna take this and then flip it right back out. And I don't back tack on these openings. You could if you're worried about it, but I'm going to top stitch over it, so it doesn't matter if I pop a few seams as I'm flipping things around. Now I would normally, after I do all this, have my ironing board up and ready and my iron nice and hot so I can press everything nice and pretty and flat. But but I just don't have the setup for that right here. I mean, I could take you with me and we could run across the room over to an ironing station, because you know, if you've been here, you've seen that we have several dozen of them. But figured that wasn't really necessary for you guys. So I just take the stiletto, I'm just popping out these little ears. And that's the plus side of clipping them, is that you don't have to worry about there being a lot of bulk in those corners. And look at this guy, oh my gosh. So on your bigger version, your 1 yard to 1.25 yards, you're gonna have a bigger border. So any size that you're trying to work with, what you want to keep in mind is the border size. So if I wanted this portion, this blue portion, to be wider, I would have just need to make this backing square bigger by however much. So if I want a 2-inch border, I need 4 inches extra around, because it essentially is folding in half, because the back side, that's all it looks like, right? This was scraps. After I cut my squares out, this was extra I had, and I didn't want to waste it, so I thought I'd just make cute little wubbies, because they're just adorable. And maybe I have a cute little grandson that I think he's gonna like these. So then all you're going to do is like a top stitch. So I don't know if you're gonna see this very well, but we're gonna come down here. So then you can do a decorative stitch. You can go to, say, a zigzag stitch. Unfortunately, the foot I've put on this machine is the 1/4 inch foot, so I can't demonstrate. I just realized I can demonstrate a really tiny one because I don't have my open foot on it. So make sure, if you're using a machine and you're trying to do decorative stitch, make sure you have the bigger plate on the bottom and an open toe foot on the top. But we'll definitely still show that. I'm just gonna line up my needle right on that edge and quilt it. And you could use a fun colored thread. I'm just making sure I catch my edge. And then I would just kind of quilt it this way, just so your borders stay your borders. Now, I'm gonna try to be sneaky and stop right in that corner. And I love the back kick that puts my needle down. I'm gonna pop up that presser foot, and then I'm just going to put it back down, and then top stitch the rest. Right? So that's all we're gonna do. I'll just show you this part of it, because like I said, I don't need to bore you to death. So let's see how it looks. Can you see there's just this tiny little zigzag because the foot I have, and then it does, you can see it on the back, there's just a little bit here. It's just that little extra so that your borders then really look like a border, right? And it won't just be one big, like this one. This is one big kind of pillow because it's not quilted down or anything. So if you washed it and nothing's tacked down, it may try to get a little unruly. You can quilt it even more if you wanted. So if you were worried, or just wanted to add more, wanted to play with decorative stitches, this is a great project for that, because you could just kind of keep going around in squares with, you know, turtle stitches, bunnies, bear stitches, whatever's on your machine. Just find those cute little stitches and just add details to it. It makes it fun. Kids love it. Doesn't matter, right? Curtis from Canada. Ah, yay, hi Curtis. I wish you were closer. I really do. Because you could come to retreat. Because retreat is coming. If you have not signed up for Sewing with My Snow Maze and want to come play with me for 4 days, sign up. I just ordered swag for the events. This time around, you guys are getting custom like coffee tumblers, because we all need our caffeine. So everybody that comes to the retreat's getting a tumbler this time. So we're keeping it fun. But hopefully that made sense for you guys. We're going to get you printed patterns. Anna and I are working on it so that you'll be able to go to our website and just download it, follow it. We're just working on the graphics for you guys so that you can have just a step-by-step tutorial besides this video. But it's super easy, self-binding, and like I said, you can really pick any size. All you're doing is making sure your backing piece is X number wider, taking into account the size of border. So if you start with a 32-inch square, and you want a 4-inch border, 4 doubled is 8. So you want to add 8 to each side. So 32 plus 8 and 8, all right? So 48. Testing my math skills. Square, because that way you have enough for that full fold over, all right? So remember, there's some tricky math. If you want to do some weird size and you're just stuck, just call me. I'll help you do the math of the border and all that kind of stuff. But that's really all it is you're just kind of giving that extra because it's doubling over on itself. And no bias strips, nothing else super fancy. And you can whip out all kinds of holiday blankets. And we got all kinds of flannel in. Oh my gosh. We got your classic plaids, juvenile, Tula pink flannel. Oh, you can make yourself your own Tula flannel. Yeah, Curtis. And you can do it rectangular. It does not have to stay square. So if you're doing Burke Braggs type thing and you want it more rectangular, same thing. You're just making rectangles. Still make the back side wider, equally amounts of however much extra you want, but you can just do them as rectangles on top of each other. Same method. Meet in the middle, stop 1/4 inch, same corners. It's not hard. And you can do all kinds of sizes, whatever you need it to do. I've seen them done, nursing home type stuff, you name it. There's so many things you could do. So I really hope this at least got somebody excited about at least some baby blankets and stuff, and at least easy binding to begin with, and then we'll start jumping into the big time binding. It's not really big time. Once you start doing it, it's fine. So we're going to teach all of you that are nervous about binding that it's really not as scary as it sounds. All right, guys? So have a fabulous Monday. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Please, I am thankful for all of you. I appreciate all of you that have been here for me. And so I hope you guys really, truly have just a fabulous Thanksgiving, whether it's just chilling at home, or if you're having family over, or you're going to family, any of that. I'm just thankful for you guys that you have been here supporting me through everything, not only just the last year of COVID, but the last 6 years. So I'm very, very thankful for you guys. And then of course, we have all kinds of pre-Black Friday specials, Black Friday specials, you name it. You need to treat yourself. Come see us. We'll take care of you. Okay, guys? So love y'all. Have a fabulous Monday. Keep on stitching.